I used to love me some Tyler Perry. As soon as I knew that Tyler Perry was coming onto the screen with Medea, there would be plenty and plenty of laughs. Tyler Perry is one of our FBA black actors that has excelled very, very strongly in the black community, portraying a mammy named Medea. Medea is actually very funny. She's probably funnier than him in real life. At this point, though, when it comes to building his empire on the backs of black people, it's not okay. The way he's constantly portraying us in the struggle life is not okay. Everything's exaggerated and very demeaning. Now, one thing that I have noticed about Tyler Perry is that his movies are constantly talking about black men and black women, mostly black women in regards to the struggle life, the struggle childhood, the struggle marriage, the struggle everything, the struggle hair, the struggle wigs, the struggle. Like the constant struggle that he's constantly portraying on us in our community. Then there's a lot of colorism and the portrayal on the TV as well. It's always the dark skinned black man is evil and monstrous, and the light skinned man is just this beautiful being. One of his recent movies shows another, once again, black woman in the struggle. Oh my God. And she's just struggling and struggling. I often wonder, Mr. Tyler Perry, did you know that there are successful people, black people out here, such as yourself and other black men? I have noticed that you have gotten pretty wealthy off of portraying all the other black people struggling. And you've gotten wealthy off of that. I often ask the question as well, Mr. Tyler Perry, why can't you create beautiful movies like this? Love Jones or The Brothers, A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, Inkwell, Brown Sugar, Soul Food, something that actually paints a true depiction of us. Now, I will not neglect the fact that some things do happen in our community, but one thing I did notice is that that happens in a lot of communities, and what you show on your TV screen, on the movies, and in whatever books or whatever you decide to do to portray us, it portrays the worst, most disgusting things that can happen in anyone's community, and it is very exaggerated. Now, these movies that I just pointed out, Mr. Tyler Perry, are beautiful depictions of us talking about marriage and kids and families. Did you know that there are black people that are just successful as you and that you can make movies like that? That's not portraying the struggle. Now, I do see that you do make some lame series concerning black women and black men with the colorism of the light skinned or dark skinned man that's evil or whatever, and he might be successful or the black woman might be successful, but there's always that scandal and that cheating and that lying, and somebody is doing something horrible to somebody and just making a bunch of chaos and drama. What happened to creating lively, beautiful movies about coming together and being successful and being creative and creating the life that a lot of us do live? Not the struggle life full of scandal, full of diseases, full of cocaine and crime and abuse, and this man is mad at this woman, so he's gonna smack her to the ground because whatever reason. And to the ones that are listening, I know that you guys have seen so many beautiful movies that have been created outside of Tyler Perry from beautiful, wonderful black artists such as Spike Lee and other ones who've created powerful, beautiful, amazing movies in regards to movies like Love Jones or even there's actually this movie out that came out recently that I don't think anyone saw. If you did, please leave a comment below. There is a movie that came out. It's called Service to Man, and it is about black doctors, black men that are really successful. It is an amazing movie. It points out how we act in our community as foundational black Americans, and it goes into further detail. It goes into further detail about who we are. It does talk about white people's perspective on us, the black man and how powerful he is, and different things that happen within the school system. So back to Mr. Tyler Perry. I have never seen anything that you have created that has really shown us in a wonderful light. As I stated in my childhood, I really did like Medea, and I do like some of the stuff that she teaches about just, um, just having courage and thinking properly about things in regards to just bettering the family dynamic sometimes when she sees that things aren't working out, and he does try to make it funny. Outside of that, everything else just garbage to me. I don't like the way that he's constantly portraying us, in and out the theater, and however else he decides to portray us. This needs to stop, Tyler. I am not for downing any of our foundational Black American people. I think that we're so hard on our Black men. There's a bunch of white men out here, Jeffrey Epstein, and all these people who do horrible things that are just now getting, taken care of. But there does come a time when things do need to come to an end, Mr. Tyler Perry, and this needs to stop. This is becoming damn near a crime to sit here and constantly portray Black men and Black women in the light that you are portraying us in, and the light that you are portraying us in, and it is not true. It's not. It's very ill-formed and exaggerated, and our race and community as people has improved a lot. So this needs to stop. And I'm making this video so that it can stop. Maybe somebody can send this to him. My mindset is that I don't believe in, like I said, coming hard or demonizing anybody. But if you're going to sit here and demonize our race, Tyler Perry, that makes you look bad as well. So you definitely need to stop this. Has anyone heard of reverse racism, where they say that Black people can be racist? Tyler Perry even went so far to create a movie that basically portrayed reverse racism. So not only is he saying that we are just criminals and we're beating on our women and men and we're just taking drugs and we're just poor and just struggling, he also created a movie that talked about we're racist. Yes, this movie portrays reverse racism. If you get some time, watch this movie and see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer. So for copyright reasons, I will not really play the sound, but basically this just is about a Black woman who decided to date a white man, and it's just showing that the Black mom was trying to figure out what her daughter was up to, and they basically made the mom seem like a bigot and just racist. Like, Black people have never went through anything concerning white people, and white people don't ever do anything to Black people, and they're so innocent, and they haven't done anything racist or tried to kill or steal or hurt any of us, and the mom should just not be acting like that. So he basically just portrays that this Black woman who cared about her daughter, who just wanted to make sure that she was okay, with this white dude was just this big black mean Black woman bigot that was racist towards white people. And I hated it. And he's constantly portraying us in this horrible light. And as I stated, this needs to stop. FD Signifier says it best. I'm going to go ahead and play him. He talks about Tyler Perry in ways that create such a true light that shines on this man and shows what he is doing to our community that needs to stop. Go ahead and watch this clip.
Villains tends to land more roughly with his shallow and almost exploitative depictions of Black men. And it's awful, but we do have to recognize that to parts of his audience, the villains depicted in his films are not so unrealistic. It's reflective of their life's experience. I've often seen some Black male intellectuals complain about Perry's movies, or movies like The Color Purple, depicting Black men as villains and abusive and patriarchal. And we should be critical of those depictions and their prevalence in our media, but not to the extent that we act like this isn't the experiences of some Black women and thus relevant to these stories that they tell. And as I said before, Perry has been more unflinching in his engagement with these issues of abuse and sexual assault and child molestation and addiction, etc., in a way that resonates with his audience and shouldn't be disregarded. We can't act like those images aren't still needed when we also have chunks of Black folks proclaiming the innocence of R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Tory Lanez, and probably eventually Tyler Perry. Further, Perry has also been a pioneer in showing how patriarchy is often perpetuated and made possible by Black women. He doesn't get enough credit for showing how many Black women align with abusive patriarchal practices within Black communities and protect abusers and silence their victims. But all that said, The underlying messages and tropes around black men in his movies goes well beyond telling some people's stories and into exploitation and anti-blackness. Because as we see depictions of abuse and trauma in Perry's films, they're mostly used as plot devices and not really effectively engaged with. The viewer is low-key just left to see that some black men are just naturally abusive and predatory, and that's really bad. Abuse in real life is a cycle. It's a product of structural barriers, economic factors, mental health, etc. The way that we fix abuse should focus on addressing those problems. But in many of Tyler Perry's films, especially in his early work, abusers are evil for basically no discernible reason. They're seldom given a backstory of any kind. They're just kind of monstrous, evil men because that's how some men are, or that's how some black men are. And the fact that they're also darker skinned makes things even worse, but again, we've already touched on that.
Excuse me, may I rake your leaves?
At first, she acts like she didn't like the light-skinned gardener, but eventually she gets to know him and sees a sensitive side.
Now, I know that to you, I'm just a poor, light-skinned gardener who can't even afford a shirt. But I love me some Jesus, and I love me some you.
Oh, Lord, thank you, Jesus. I never thought I'd ever be with a man so loving and light-skinned.
Now, FD Signifier is the person that you just listened to. I do love all of his videos. There are a few that I do not like, but for the most part, he does have a good perspective. He does not like the foundational Black American community, simply because he does not agree with Tariq for some reason. He just doesn't like Tariq. The concept of a foundational Black American community, though, is based off of our lineage, and he is one of us, even though he doesn't like the title. I can tell that he is a part of us simply because of his videos, the way he talks, and the background. If there are people that don't like the if there are people who don't like the foundational Black American title, that's not a big deal, because you are entitled to like what you like and do what you do in life. You are still born in America, you're still Black, and you're still descendants of slaves. So you don't have to claim the title, but just know who you are. There's no way to just say, like, you're not Black. You are. You were born in America, and your parents were slaves. And there are some possibilities that your parents could have already been here before the whole African boats thing started. Now, the first video from FD Signifier that you saw was simply about the Black men and how Tyler Perry portrays Black men. And now this video right here, this video that I'm going to show, goes into detail about how Tyler Perry portrays Black women. And this gets pretty deep.
Way more harmful to Black women as a whole.
Well, at least I have Jesus and a strong love of a Black, African, beautiful, independent Black woman.
Cut! This isn't working. I cannot work like this anymore. I've worked with Jesus.
Of all the groups that can take issue with Tyler Perry, no group is more exploited by him than his Black female fan base. It's really insidious, manipulative, and morally bankrupt as a grift that he set up for himself, where he's created this reputation as a champion for Black women, one of a few men willing to represent Black women's needs and interests at his level. But when you really look at what he's usually saying and doing in his media, it's much more serving to him than them. Black women. And social media today is a cottage industry of manufacturing harm and outrage against Black women. We now have literal, non-real AI Black women acting ghetto and ridiculous just for people's entertainment, which then gets transmuted onto real life Black women who have nothing to do with that nonsense. So I don't want to be hyperbolic when I criticize Tyler Perry here to make it seem like his harm is so uniquely awful compared to the harm that Black women encounter in so many other ways. But what makes Perry unique in one regard, and probably worse, is the way that he gets away with it. Because of his church aesthetics, he gets a pass, and that is very much worth addressing. I think the first place to start is to examine how Tyler brands his media as pro-Black women, because Tyler has went on record as saying that he sees his work as a healing ministry. In a New York Times article way back in 2007, after his first few film successes, Tyler said, "I have this unbelievable pull to have people see these movies and be healed," he said. "So many people are in need of healing." And he's right. It's just concerning about how he approaches this concept of healing and whether that's actually what he's trying to do versus recognizing how vulnerable this population is and how much they desire healing and giving them something that he knows they'll buy, regardless of whether or not it accomplishes that goal. The necessity for Black women to return home and re-engage with domestic and family service in order to be safe, that their real power is in their position under men and under the church. Women's rightful anger at the ways they've been treated as inappropriate and a barrier to their alleged healing. Carrie goes into how in A Diary for a Mad Black Woman, the main character Helen is abused and mistreated to an almost cartoonish degree, of course by her dark-skinned rich Black husband, culminating in her being kicked out of the home, requiring her to move back with her grandmother Medea, and in the process she meets the legendary light-skinned man with cornrows,
Excuse me, may I rake your leaves?
who must now brace against all of her misplaced anger and bitterness in order to get the opportunity for him to heal her with his love, abs, and cornrows. Carrie goes on to state,
what makes this attempt to identify with Black female viewers through the Helen character problematic is that it teaches viewers to see women's assertive behavior as a potential justification for intervention, and to measure women's behavior according to a code that privileges heterosexual Christian men. For example, when Orlando tells Helen that he chose to reject the bitterness of his own heartbreak, his confession works to enforce the code that women must rise above mistreatment and get over it. Helen has no excuse for mistreating Orlando. Thus, in her rejection of his marriage proposal in favor of honoring her commitment to Charles, viewers see a threat to the continuation of the Black family that Perry's rhetoric of healing resolves. When women like Helen are unable to see love, honor, or choose the good Christian men in front of them, families suffer and communities regress.
the message is clear here. Fulfillment and healing for Black women is almost always an external thing. It's in a man, it's in the home, it's in the church, but seldom within the power of Black women themselves, unless they're giving that power up to a male-ran institution. And you might
Now, in my own humble opinion, I definitely believe that a marriage and husband and kids can definitely be a healing part of a woman's life, especially if she really wants that. I do not believe in staying in abusive relationships either, but it should be based off a man being light-skinned or dark-skinned or anything of that nature. That is very disgusting propaganda pushed in our community between the light-skin and colorism and all that crap. I also believe that a woman should be able to heal internally and externally. The external healing should not just be the only thing that she's looking for, constantly running here, running there. There is internal healing and external healing that can happen, and that can include a man, that can include a family, that does include herself behind closed doors, doing prayer or whatever she is doing to heal in the darkness. And when she comes to the light in communities and around her friends, all of that can be healing, but it's not just external. And that is something that is constantly forced upon women. You need a man, a family, and kids, and a church to have some type of healing. No, you need yourself. You need to look in the mirror. You need to speak positive affirmations, or whatever you need to do. You need to possibly talk to someone in private. You need to do things in private. You need to do things in the dark in order to heal. So when you come around your family and friends, you'll be in a better headspace. Your family and friends is basically the icing to the cake when it comes to love, when it comes to peace, and when it comes to healing. Your family is such as your kids and things of that nature. But you have to be one with yourself. You have to be okay with yourself. And that's what it boils down to. It does not just boil down to if I get a man or if a man gets a woman, he's going to automatically be healed. That does not work. It will never work. God wants us to focus on ourselves and pour into ourselves and talk to, God per se. If whatever your belief system is, God, Goddess, Christian, Muslim, whatever, it's all about your internal work between you and God.
Unless they deserve it. But probably the grossest example of Tyler Perry punishing Black women for getting out of line is from the movie Temptation in 2013. This movie is one of those joints where the story happens in the past and someone's telling the story to us in the present. So we have this woman talking about her friends fall from dun 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 too much temptation. Sit down, you're in for a treat. We have Journey Smollett playing the character Judith, and unlike most of Tyler Perry's characters, probably because she's light-skinned, she's already found her good simple man, and he's even dark-skinned, and he's not even blue-collar since he's a pharmacist and they live in DC. So maybe we're breaking away from some things, except while this should be any black woman's dream, especially according to Tyler Perry, Bryce, her husband, is lame and kind of takes it for granted and is really just an awful dude on a lot of levels. Part of me feels bad for him because of what he goes through. Part of me is like, you are dumb and stupid and deserve everything you get, and possibly we're into this thing the whole time, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
For once in your life, Judith, damn, come on.
It's not that easy, okay?
Where is he right now?
He's watching the game.
Touchdown! Yes! Oh, pass the ball!
Look out!
Mom, I'm sorry. That was my boss. She just called. Needs me to run an errand.
What?
I know, it's ridiculous. I'll see y'all later.
What?
With a football breaking down. See it there?
That happened a lot? No.
Because Bryce is lame and dumb, Judith is bored and unfulfilled, even though she has, again, everything she should desire as a black woman. Later, enter Harley, a black billionaire tech bro who's also dark-skinned and is infatuated with Judith and wants her bad. Also of note, right about at this time, 50 Shades of Grey is popping off, so you can kind of see where this is going. I'm inclined to not be overly upset with Judith's sense of unfulfillment, because the reality is that many married women, once they get married and start getting into what domestic life is, find it unfulfilling, despite the fact that they've been told from childhood that that's what they should desire. But that's not very Christian of them. So Judith's reasonable sense of despondence is depicted as a moral failure and corruption on her part. Don't get me wrong. A healthier woman in Judith's situation maybe should go to marriage therapy or just dissolve the marriage before they start cheating on their husband, but it still frustrates me at the same time because Bryce is the dumbest boy ever and definitely didn't pay any attention to his wife this entire time. However, there's not much fun to be had with the film around this because while it's clear that Judith is attracted to Harley's bad boy billionaire routine from jump, she remains solid and faithful until he rapes her on his private jet. And it's after this where she goes full force into accepting her desires for him. We're coached by the film to see that maybe she didn't technically consent after telling this nigga no multiple times and trying to fight him off, but deep down, she really wanted it. So again, Perry being very careless with assault and predatory behavior. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we have a montage of sorts of Judith falling for Harley and essentially discovering that she prefers a toxic, dysfunctional love affair on some Cardi B shit versus a stable, predictable relationship that Bryce might have offered. And even that doesn't in and of itself bother me, if not for the fact that it started with this dubious consent element that most people didn't catch in the theater. Eventually, Bryce finally realizes that maybe his wife shouldn't be spending all this time with the billionaire playboy for whatever work reason she was making up, and comes to get Judith at a nightclub, which is clearly meant to symbolize hell. Get it? Temptation? The last temptation of Christ or something? I don't know, maybe. I'm not Christian, y'all. I'm sorry. Perry gives us the first and probably only time we've seen a gay intimate act in his films at this club scene, which is not an accident because, again, this is hell and that's where gay people go. Nice one, Tyler. The end breakup scene between Bryce and Judith is ugly, but I mean, it's a real thing when people are mismatched and grow apart. Judith doesn't want Bryce, and at least she's finally honest about their problems and that they no longer match. But because Harley is the devil, later on in the movie, she ends up fighting him and he beats her, and then Bryce finds her and then gets his lick back on him and then runs off with Brandy. Oh yeah, Brandy's in the movie. Brandy's in the movie because she's the character that we've been being told about, we think, or something from the beginning of the movie, who we also find out is Harley's ex, who was also abused. But then you start to realize, oh wait, Bryce has been giving her HIV medicine this entire time, and oh no. So now we cut back to the present and we see that it's actually Judith that's been telling this story the whole time. She was being played by a different actress, and she goes to Bryce, of all people, to keep her T-cell count up because she's also living with HIV. That's right, y'all. Everybody got AIDS and shit, except Bryce. Bryce, being the good man he is, he doesn't have any problems. Just Brandy and Judith for making the foolish decision of sleeping with Harley. Consent be damned. By the way, this isn't even how HIV works, but Tyler don't care. He just had to make sure the message was clear. Black women who don't respect their men and their marriages get AIDS. But hey, Both men are dark skinned. Progress. And this is the man who champions black women and thinks they need a lot of healing, who's built his career off their money and devotion.
So after watching FD Signifier, I also just want to make some commentary about the Temptation movie. I think that the Judith girl chose two toxic relationships. She chose the guy who decided to play video games all day, who didn't talk to her, pour into her, have any intimacy. Probably when she got home from work, he just said, "Babe, I got 25 points in the game and I'm winning." And she was like, "Oh, okay," and probably went to go lay down. And there was nothing deep or intimate about them, except for maybe he paid the bills. And then the other one was kind of stalkerish and preyed on her beauty and just wanted to get into her head and be a psychopath and just a bunch of other weird stuff. What she needed was probably somebody that just catered to her intimately and had, conversations with her about life, just regular conversations. It seemed like the other one was just caught up in his boys and doing weird things concerning his dudes and his games. And just like I said, going to work and paying the bills. And the other one was just really obsessed with sex or something of that nature. And she didn't need either one. Both were toxic relationships. But yeah, definitely Tyler. None of this is okay. At this point, he seems to be worse than Jesse Jackson to me, or on the same level with trying to destroy how we look in our community, constantly exaggerating things, putting out lots of trauma and things that are being preyed upon. And at this point should not be existing in regards to how he is and what he's doing in regards to our community. My name is Ebony. I am very strong in building the Black community, creating a better place for us to be, a better way of looking at us and speaking the truth. I do not like anything about us being exaggerated or looked at in a really cynical, awful way, because that is not us. We are beautiful, proud, wonderful people, including Michael Jackson, including Prince, including all of our amazing people out here, regular doctors and lawyers and therapists and pastors. There are some pastors out here that are actually good people. It's just a lot of wonderful, great people out here. It's a lot of beautiful spiritual women that are into herbs and healing our community, doulas, all kinds of stuff. There are so many aspects to us as FBA people. So when you get a chance, please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. I would love, love, love to have you here. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.